has lit a candle, as you've seen. You're fortunate here in Exeter, in St Nicholas, because there are plenty of books that you can borrow and read. There's a library, more than one library in the city of Exeter where you can borrow books. You can read as many books as you choose. But in some parts of the world, children are struggling to have access to education. They can't get the books that they need. Schools might not be around anymore. People might be studying in tents, for example. The first story I'm going to tell you, I learned it from this girl. And when she told me the story, she was just a bit older than you are now. Her name is Noor, and here she is with her sister Lama. And they're from Gaza in Palestine. 5 years ago, in January 2021, I met up with Noor and Lama and other children from around the world at the World Storytelling Cafe, which is something I helped to set up, Young International Storytellers. So children from all around the world, from the UK and all around the world, can come together and tell each other stories. You're invited. And Noor, who's the one with a pet parakeet sitting on her head, told this story. And all the way through the story, from the beginning to the end, the parakeet remained sitting on her head. Quite a remarkable thing. The story that Noor told us doesn't come from Palestine. It's a story that comes from Europe. It's a story from the north of Europe, from Germany and that area of Europe. And it's a fantastic story. Some of you may have heard a version of this story before. So if you're holding something, maybe put it down. You don't need to be holding anything. You might need to keep your hands free. And this is the story that I've got to share with you. I say story, story. You say, tell us a story. A story I learned from Noor in Gaza. Story, story.
Tell us a story.
Long ago, beyond the 7 seas, beyond the 7 mountains, beyond the 7 forests, there was a king, and he was sad. The king had 12 children, 11 sons, 5 young princes, and his youngest child was a girl. And her name was Diana. Diana was loved by her father. She reminded him of his dear wife, who had died not long before. The king was broken-hearted. He loved his children, but how he missed his dear departed wife. One day the king went hunting in the forest, and there in the forest he was tricked, bewitched by a young and beautiful sorceress. She made it that he was lost in the forest, and when she met him, she showed him the way out, and in gratitude for being shown the way out, he agreed to marry this witch. He did not see her dark heart. So there in the castle he lived with his treacherous new wife. And whenever the king wasn't present, oh, how she despised his children. Those 11 fine young princes irritated her. They were so handsome and good. And the youngest child, Diana, the girl, she was jealous how much the king loved his daughter. So much so that one day the queen said to Diana, "Child, come with me into the forest, and there we will gather wild flowers." Diana had patience. Diana had courage. Diana had determination. Went with her cruel stepmother between the trees of the forest, where it was dark and there was no path. And there the cruel witch queen cast a spell so that her stepdaughter would be lost and returned to the castle without her. Young Diana, trapped in the forest with no means of escape. But I told you, can you say after me? Diana had patience.
Diana had patience.
Diana had courage.
Diana had courage.
Diana had determination.
Diana had determination.
She was resolved to survive. She looked among the roots of the trees, finding fruits, roots, fungus which she could eat. And so she lived in the forest all alone. The creatures of the forest were kind to her, and always there was plenty. Back in the castle, her father, the king, missed his daughter. He had no idea of how she had been tricked by his cruel wife. He was even more broken-hearted than when he had lost his own dear first wife. The king was so sorry. And he went to his sons. My sons, what has happened to your sister? Where has she gone? They did not know.
You get the chair.
They missed their sister too. The 11 brothers had loved their young sister after their mother had died. Always near her, always protecting her. So sad, so broken-hearted. But this irritated the queen. And one day when the king was away, she began to sew. She was quick. She cast a spell. She managed to sew 11 shirts made of white silk. And each of those shirts, when the brothers were near, she cast each shirt over their head. And instantly, the 11 brothers grew white wings. Pure white. Their necks stretched long, and they took flight. Away with you, 11 swans, now you are. You may not return, said the cruel queen. And the 11 wild swans flew off over the forest, beating their wings. They could not return, or so the queen believed. And when the king returned from his journey and found that now not only had he lost his daughter, but also his 11 fine prince sons, he was distraught. And he went to his bed and was ill. Now, far off in the forest, Diana was fending for herself. She would peer through the leaves of the trees as the sun came between them and see those sparkling lights and imagine that those were the eyes of her brothers that shone as they gazed at her. But often she cried. Now you know about Diana. Can you remember? Say it together. Diana had patience. Diana had courage. Diana had determination. She resolved that she would survive. And one day, as she was weeping there in the trees, balanced on a branch that rocked her to and fro gently, a strange, gnarled, old woman appeared from the forest. A woman, a spirit of the trees. Dear, tell me, why are are you so sad? Amanda told the story how she missed her 11 brothers. 11 brothers that remained back at the castle. No, my dear. 11, they are no longer with your father. They have been transformed. I saw them fly over. What? Brothers do not fly. The woman began to disappear back into the gnarled trunk of the tree. Follow the path. Well, there was no path until Diana looked and the trees seemed to part in front of her. And she walked along the path as it appeared. And birds flew ahead, twittering and fluttering, as if asking her to follow. And so she did. And through the forest came Diana. It was a long way. Ahead of her, she could hear the sound of waves breaking, crashing onto rocks. She emerged out of the trees, and there was the shore and a great ocean spread in front. I am lost. I do not know this way. I have never been here before. But you know, Diana had patience. Diana had courage. Diana had determination. Diana had determination. She looked along that rocky shore and she found a cave, a deep, dark cave. She crept in. The sun was getting low. She needed a place to shelter. Strangely, the cave seemed to be clean and freshly swept. And as she looked out from the cave and over the sea, coming towards her, she saw shapes. And she counted. How many? 11. 11 wild swans, beating their wings, flying towards the cave from the ocean. And the first swan dipped and dived, swooped into the cave and landed. And the next, and the next, and the next. And as each swan landed, their feathers fell from their shoulders. Their white swan skins slipped off their backs. And as the sun had gone down, they turned into their human forms. My brothers, you have come to me. And they were amazed. Diana, we thought we would never see you again. And they embraced her, and the tears rolled down their cheeks. There was joy. Why are you here, said Diana. Why are you in this cave? Our cruel stepmother transformed us, cast a spell. And here we must remain. We cannot return to the castle. We are in human form when the sun is down and through the night. But as the sun rises, so we are transformed every day into swans. And so we must fly over the ocean from island to island. It is our destiny. Let me stay here with you. I will look after you. And that night she cared for her brothers and they cared for her. But before dawn the next morning, they went to the mouth of the cave, and as the sun rose, they transformed. Their arms became white feathered wings, their necks stretched, and they flew out one by one from the cave. Out and over the ocean they flew, and Diana was left alone. And she cleaned and swept and prepared for her brother's return. And so it went on, day after day. Far from home they were. One day Diana said to her brothers, "Brothers 11, tell me, we cannot always live in this way. Surely there must be something that can be done." And the eldest of the brothers hung his head and said, "Our sister, there is a way for us to remain in our true forms. But it depends on you. And the task is too much for us to ask of you. You are so young." "I can do it," said Diana. Now, you know about Diana. Let's say it together. Diana had patience. Diana had courage. Diana had determination. "I will do whatever is required." "Then," said the eldest brother, "you must go to our own dear mother's grave, where the wild nettles grow. Her cave has been left unattended, wild and overgrown. Take those nettles, your hands will be stung. Strip away the leaves, and from the stalks take the fibres. Weave those fibres into shirts. It will take many, many moons. It takes great skill." "I can do this," said Diana. "I will make a shirt for each one of you. Only when the 11 shirts are completed, only then can we come. You must put the 11 shirts over our heads, and we will be transformed back into human form, and our cruel stepmother will lose her power over us. But we cannot ask you to do this." "Well, why ever not?" said Diana. "What I have not told you is until the task is complete, you may not utter a single word. All this must be done in silence." "But sister, do not even think of it." But Diana did not open her mouth. She nodded and smiled at her brothers, determined that she would complete the task, because we know Diana had patience, Diana had courage, Diana had determination. The brothers the next morning flew out as swans over the ocean. Diana waved goodbye and left. And it seemed as she walked through the forest, the birds showed her the way. No longer was she enchanted, lost in that forest. The trees parted and the birds flew ahead, twittering and fluttering from branch to branch and guiding her. And after a day, she came to the castle, the home that she had known. But did she go into the castle?
No.
Did she go and speak to her father?
No.
She went to her mother's grave. A grave that had been left abandoned. A grave that her father had not tended to. It was overgrown, covered in nettles. Diana went. She began to pull the nettles from the ground, trying to tend her mother's grave. And then when she had gathered many nettles, she stripped the leaves from the stalks. Her hands, oh, the pain. Have you ever been stung by nettles?
Yeah.
But she did not stop. She took the leaves and she began to remove the fibres from inside the stalks. And with her strong fingers, she began to twist and turn and weave those threads. It took time. So much time. Day and night she worked. Her clothes became torn and rags. Her hair became matted, full of dry twigs and leaves. She had clothes now that were made of leaves, foliage from the forest and the graveyard. She would sit in a branch of a tree overlooking her mother's grave, working, weaving the shirts. The first shirt took more than a moon to complete. But now she had learned the way, and her fingers became more nimble and quick, and although she was often stunned, she worked diligently, because Diana had patience, Diana had courage, Diana had determination. She would never give up. She worked and worked and worked. Each full moon that passed, another shirt was completed. In the castle, her father lived in sorrow. He was lying in his bed and never rose from it. How he regretted marrying his queen. He knew now the truth, that she was cruel, a sorceress. All she wanted was power. And he remembered his first wife. Oh, how I miss her, how I have neglected her grave. And one day he drew himself from his sickbed, and while the queen was away, he crept out from the castle and came to the graveyard and was amazed. I thought it would be overgrown, and yet the grave is well tended. He stood and wept beside his wife's grave, and then he heard a sound above him. What is that creature sitting in the tree? Diana looked down at him. Did she speak?
No.
Not a word. She carried on working, her fingers so quick and nimble, twisting and turning the threads from the stalks of the nettles, working and making shirts. She knew her father, but she did not cry out in recognition. She saw how sick he looked. She continued working. He looked up at her face streaked with mud, her hair matted, her clothes made of leaves. He did not know her. He thought she was some kind of creature, some kind of strange beast. Who are you? She did not answer. She was as silent as a fish. But there was something about her, something that meant he needed to stay. And as the sun went down, he sat beside his wife's grave, gazing at the strange creature in the tree. The next day, the queen, the cruel, sorceress queen, returned from her journey. And when she returned home, found her husband was not in his bed. She went searching for him and soon came to the graveyard. Husband, what are you doing here? Silence, wife. She looked up. And the queen knew. Flew into a rage. Come here! And she reached and pulled the girl, Diana, from the tree. I know your tricks. This creature, my husband, must be burned. And she gathered together dry sticks from all around the graveyard. She built a pyre, and all the time, the girl, Diana, quickly working with her fingers, trying to complete the 11th, final shirt. She worked as fast as she could. The pyre was prepared, the great pile of wood. A stake was placed, and the witch queen forced Diana against that central stick. She went and set light to burn her to death. Did you? Diana got burned?
No.
Diana what? Let's say it. Diana had patience. Diana had. She did not stop. As the flames came closer, she managed to complete the final one, the 11th shirt. The flames were getting closer. She could feel their heat. And suddenly, from the sky, there came a sound. What was the sound? And the 11 swans came over the forest, swooping down one by one and close to Diana, and she threw a shirt over each of their heads as they flew past, and each one immediately was transformed to his true self. There stood a fine, young, handsome prince. They surrounded the fire, 11 of them, and they took branches and beat the flames and put out the fire until there was only smoke. And they freed their sister. And she was untouched, not even a scorch. What is this? My sons, my princes, you are safe, and how you have grown. What has... Tell me what has happened. And the princes bowed to their father, the king. This is our sister, Diana. And Diana, now, after all of this time, spoke. Father, let me tell you the story. And so she recounted the tale as I've told it to you. And when her father heard this news, his heart opened. He embraced his daughter. Oh, Diana, you have patience. You have courage. You have determination. And he turned to his cruel wife. Her power was lost. The magic was broken. And she turned, walked out of the graveyard and disappeared into smoke. And so the king, reunited with his 12 children, lived well with them. And Diana, she did this because Diana had patience. Diana had courage. And Diana had determination. This story was told to me by a girl when she was not much older than you. It was a girl who, when she was telling the story, sat with a parakeet on her head, right the way through. And her name is Noor, a wonderful young storyteller from Gaza in Palestine. Thank you very much.
That was a good story. Thank you, David.